Welcome to the Disrupt Your Career podcast, brought to you by Claire Harbour
and Antoine Tirard. We're passionate about helping everyone find fulfillment in their work life.
We believe that big, messy, uncharted career changes are inevitable, and it's up to you to decide.
Will you take control and disrupt, or allow yourself to be disrupted?
We wrote the book about it, and now we share here our conversations with other thinkers in this crucial area.
Settle down and get ready to listen to this dose of wisdom.
So in this time's version of Author Chat for Disrupt Your Career, I'm really happy to be welcoming Kathy Oneto, who is the author of a wonderful book, which will be launching on June the 10th, and it's called Sustainable Ambition. You can already look for it, and we'll provide the links on pre-order. Kathy, thank you so much for joining me today to talk a little bit about the book you've written.
Of course, Claire, I'm very happy to be here.
Wonderful. So, as always, we want to understand the why. Why did you write this book, and how did you write it? We love, as fellow authors, always to interrogate people and get the how as well as the why.
Well, I wrote the book for people who really are ambitious, both in their professional and their personal lives. And they're trying to figure out how to prioritize and pursue all they want, but in a more sustainable way. And they may be finding themselves feeling unfulfilled at times, like they're not able to put time and energy into what truly matters to them, despite doing a lot across both their life and their work. And oftentimes people think the problem is they go to that term that we all use, which is work-life balance. But I really believe that's an elusive goal. It really sets unrealistic expectations. And what we're really trying to resolve, what we're really struggling with when we use that term is, well, how do we navigate the conflicts around everything we want and must do given our finite time and energy? And how do we pursue our goals in a way that is sustainable rather than getting overly stretched to the point of severe exhaustion? So that's really what I'm trying to address in the book, is to help people navigate these conflicts. And the book offers both a mindset and a method that people come back to again and again and kind of practice. I use that term practice to really help us with these conflicts. The book offers practical tools for really helping people define goals at any life stage, prioritize across life and work, and hopefully achieve that success with more resilience. And then you asked, well, how did I write the book? So let me just say, really, I've been researching this over decades. And we say we write the books that we need ourselves as well. And so my own experience certainly has drawn me to do research over the course of my adult life. But then I've really been researching it that much more diligently over the last 5 years. Certainly, I have a podcast as well. My podcast interviews have informed what's in the book. I held workshops to test my concepts and my content and the tools, and as well as have used them with coaching clients, and then have written the book really with more diligence over the last 2 or more years. As you know, it is a marathon to write a book. And I kind of joke now, even with the book coming out, I'm kind of at I think mile 18.
That's beautiful. Thank you. And of course, the marathon image is a common one, but it doesn't become any less powerful, right? So glad you're at mile 18. I imagine that you're girding yourself for the final 8, and we will look forward to being able to read it and to be able to remind our readers. In fact, we will do our utmost to launch this episode around your launch date. Let's perhaps dig into what's in the book without wanting to give away all the pixie dust so that nobody will buy it. If you could perhaps share with us some of the key concepts and messages in the book, that would be wonderful.
Well, where I start with people is really on challenging what we've been taught to believe about success and ambition. I really champion that we reclaim personal success and ambition as our own, because I believe sustainable success really is defined on our own terms. And so that's one place I start. But I also start with re-looking at ambition and letting people know ambition isn't bad. It gets a bad rap. People think it is really a negative concept. And even when you look at the definitions of ambition, it really has these negative connotations. But ambition actually is natural for us humans. We set goals. And in fact, ambition is good, but I believe it needs to be sustainable. If we don't have enough ambition, if it's too low, we can be stagnant. If it gets too high in our ambition, I say we go into the severe zone where we can overextend ourselves and be in a danger zone around constant striving. And so we really want it to be sustainable. And so I believe we make ambition sustainable by directing our life ambitions, our life and work ambitions rather, wisely. And so I talk about the sustainable ambition method as being about aligning the right ambitions at the right time with the right effort. And so the method really helps you redefine and reclaim ambitions by making them your own, then prioritizing and pacing your pursuits, and then being really discerning about your effort in building resilience. So it supports sustainability by motivating our effort, focusing our effort, and then managing our effort wisely.
That sounds beautifully simple. And of course, then real life hits. But perhaps if you would, you could share some case studies or some stories from your work that would illustrate how this methodology, how this approach to thinking about ambition actually plays out in real life.
I do want to, before I dig into this, just react to what you said, because you said, like, then real life hits, right? And there is some benefit to having a simple method. It is something that you can go back to again and again and re anchor on. And so, what I talk about is how sustainable ambition really is a practice. It is a dance that requires this constant attentiveness and adaptability. And so, it's a practice that requires that we go back and reflect and recalibrate as we move forward, because things change on us. That's why I don't like the term work-life balance. We think, oh, we're just going to figure it out and stay in equilibrium. And that's why we constantly get frustrated, as opposed to knowing that we need to come back to things and reassess. But let me come back now to your case study question. And I'll go through each of the pillars of this and just share a couple of ideas from the book. One is, around right ambition. One of the people that I reference in the book is a woman, Eva Dino. And at the time that I interviewed her, she restructured her life in a way, and she was a freelance journalist at the time. When I interviewed her, she'd like to be ambitious until, she says, I'm now ambitious until 3 o'clock. So she had redefined her life and what ambition meant to her. And she also shared what her own success metrics were. And so she had said, when she recrafted this life, I want to run as many miles a week as I work, and I want to camp a certain number of nights a year. So she was redefining success on her own terms, reclaiming her ambition and how she wanted to define that for herself. And that was how she reclaimed success on her own terms. And so with a coaching client, I did a similar thing with her in terms of redefining how she was going to look at success. And in doing that, was really able to help her come to some peace with her shifting ambitions in terms of still wanting to be ambitious about her career, but allowing herself to not push so hard on herself and allowing space for making time for her family at this life stage. And so, because sometimes what we're struggling with, it's a mindset game. It's kind of, can we allow ourselves to come to peace with some of the choices that we're making in terms of where we're putting our time and attention and how we're managing our energy? So around right time, one of the examples in the book as well is Dr. Sahar Youssef, and she is a cognitive neuroscientist and faculty member at the University of California, Berkeley. And when I interviewed her, she talked about how she makes decisions, both about over the course of her life around her career, but also in her day-to-day life as well. She still uses this future self orientation to help her make decisions about when she is going to do what in her life. And so she asked herself when she was making choices about her career early on, well, what will my future self thank me for? And so she made some choices around, and that's a key word there. She made some choices around, I am going to go ahead and pursue my PhD at this time because I don't see people in their 40s doing that. But I do see people launching business in their 40s doing that. And so I'm going to pace what my ambitions are and what I'm going to do at what time. And she even thought about that in terms of things like, when am I going to start a family? Or she really had ambitions to travel when she was young as well. But making these strategic choices around, when do I pursue what ambitions at what time, is what she was looking at. And to bring this into, when I worked with some workshop participants on this, I have an exercise where people do a horizon map and they're kind of planning things out over time. And what helps in people doing this and putting it on paper and putting it in front of themselves is that they can get more awareness. I had one of my participants who said, like, wow, my 1-lane roadmap turned into a 4-lane highway. They started to see, oh my gosh, I am trying to do way too much. And with some sadness, almost said, like, I have to put some of my goals for this year on the back burner. I have to put those aside. A final one that I'll just share in this context is around right effort. So I like to reference Doris Kearns Goodwin is a celebrated U.S. presidential biographer. And in her masterclass, she says, the most underappreciated leadership strength is the ability to relax and replenish energy. And she goes on to share how the presidents she studied all had practices around how they restored themselves so that they could do the tasks that were in front of them, those big jobs that they were facing. And so one of the things that I work on with people is, what is your sustaining plan? Are you being conscious about how you're going to sustain your energy, how you're going to restore it, protect it, and support it over time? And so one of my coaching clients in particular really has focused on this as she has stepped back into a really big, significant role. And she's been really conscious, and we've come back to, like, hey, what is my sustaining plan for now? How do I remain committed to this? How do I integrate this into my life so it too is sustainable?
That's fantastic. There are some really powerful images in what you've just mentioned. I love the confoundment of the 4-lane superhighway. Of course, it makes sense that these presidents that were interviewed would have had some sort of method to nurture themselves, but it's not the public image that we tend to assume, is it? So some beauty and counterintuition there too. So thank you. I think we're going to have to stop because this is supposed to be a short podcast. Let's tie it up there and remind the listeners that early June, they'll be able to buy the book. And long before that, from now on, they can sign up in advance to get a copy sent as soon as it's out. So thank you, Kathy, for joining me and sharing the wisdom that you've accrued and analyzed and put down into words. And good luck with the final 8 miles.
Thanks so much, Claire. Thanks for having me.
We hope you enjoyed hearing from this month's guest as much as we did.
Do go and check out our work on disrupt-your-career.com and come back soon. Thank you.